Good morning and welcome to Pittsburgh City Council's Cablecast public hearing for Thursday, July 10th, 2025. My name is Deborah Gross. I am the councilwoman for District 7. Would the clerk please read the title of the bill?
Bill 1752, Resolution providing for the designation as a historic structure under Title 11 of the Code of Ordinances that certain structure known as Donny's Place, located at 1226 Heron Avenue in the Polish Hill neighborhood, 5th Ward, City of Pittsburgh. The owner of the property does not support the nomination and there is no cost to the city.
Thank you, appreciate it. And for the record today, we are joined by Council Member Charland, and other members may be joining or they may be watching live from their offices. Our first order of business will be an introduction by the Department of City Planning, followed by testimony from the registered speakers. And just if you've never been to an official public hearing before, if you did pre-register, you'll be given 3 minutes. If you didn't make the deadline and you've just arrived, unregistered speakers have 1 minute, and that does go really quickly. So thank you. Can we have our presentation from planning? Introduce yourself for the record.
Good morning, Kevin Kunak with the Department of City Planning. The historic nomination DCP HN 2024-00641 was filed on October 24th, 2024 for the historic nomination of Donny's Place, located at 26 Heron Avenue, parcel 26-Q-189. The property owner was sent notice of this nomination by the nominator and the city. The property owner, as mentioned previously, is not in support of this nomination. A development activities meeting was held on December 16th, 2024. A summary of Department of City Planning meetings to date. The Historic Review Commission held a meeting to determine reasonable cause on February 5th, 2025. The commission found that there is reasonable cause to move forward with this nomination. A public hearing was held before the Historic Review Commission on March 5th, 2025. The Historic Review Commission voted to provide no recommendation to City Council regarding this nomination. A public hearing was held before Planning Commission on March 25th, 2025. The Planning Commission voted to provide a negative recommendation to City Council regarding this nomination. As a result of these two recommendations, a supermajority is required by council to list this property on the register. That concludes the staff report.
Thank you, appreciate it. And our typical protocol is that the legislation nominating it is, in the public record, available on our legislative database, Legistar, and that packet will be attached as an attachment to the legislation as well. All right, so we will move to testimony from registered speakers. I believe we have speakers online as well, in chambers and online? Yes. Okay, so I'll be reading the speakers in the order of the registered in front of me. I'll say a name and then I'll say the second name so that you know that you're queued up, whether you're in chambers or you're at home. And registered speakers will come to the podium and give your name and neighborhood for the record. Let's see if I listed everything that was on the paper. Okay. So the first name on my list is Jack Billings, and Mr. Billings will be followed by Melissa Mcwigan. Sir Jack Billings? Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. My name is Jack Billings. I live in Squirrel Hill in Councilmember Strasburger's district. I am a member of Pittsburgh's queer kink community. I am here today to oppose the nomination of Donny's as a historic landmark. I was a patron at Donny's. I don't remember the first event I went there. I believe it was sometime in 2014 or possibly 2016. I do remember my last event on December 27th, 2019 at a party hosted by Combined Iron City Bondage. I went with my then boyfriend and now husband. It was my understanding at the time, and I thought everyone's understanding, that this was a last hurrah for Donny's. Donny had gotten older and had agreed to sell the bar in March of that year. It had been the host to many kink events over the years. Donny was aware of its history. That's why he carefully packed up the historical material from the bar and donated it to the Heinz History Center. But Donny's was not the most prominent gay bar in Pittsburgh. Dr. Harrison Apple counted 28 gay bars and clubs. Pegasus, in the basement of 818 Liberty Avenue, a building now owned by the Cultural Trust, was the most prominent. It wasn't the last standing either. Lucky's and Brewers are still going strong. Newer bars like P-Town and Mary's have emerged. Nor was Donny the most prominent gay bar owner. That was Lucky. No offense to Chuck Hans or Scott Knoxon. If you want to know more about the queer nightclub history of Pittsburgh, check out the Pittsburgh Queer History Project, specifically Dr. Apple's work, Lucky After Dark, Pittsburgh's Gay and Lesbian Social Clubs, 1960 to 1990. So when I heard Donny's was nominated as a historic landmark, I was surprised. I asked my friends in the Pittsburgh queer King community if they knew of it or were behind the nomination. None of them were aware. I asked my friends on the Pittsburgh King Council if they were in favor of the nomination. Their collective stance, which they asked me to share, is none of them are in favor of Donny's being a historic landmark. This nomination does not come from the queer King community. This nomination was clearly intended to block the proposed new development at the site of Donny's, denying first Donny and now his estate their due. When nominator Lizzie Anderson spoke before the Zoning Board of Adjustment on September 17, 2020, she objected to the proposed development of Donny's place. Not because of its queer history, she didn't bring that up once. She objected because she didn't like the proposed development and new homes being built in Polish Hill. Her nomination here was clearly disingenuous. This is pink-washed NIMBYism. They fought Donny over this project for nearly 5 years while he was alive. They're robbing his grave now that he's dead. To pretend that this nomination is done out of queer solidarity is an insult to Pittsburgh's queer King community. I urge City Council to vote no on this nomination. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Melissa Mcwigan, followed by Martin J. Healey.
Hello, this is Melissa Mcwigan. I am speaking on behalf of Preservation Pittsburgh. We have submitted formal comments to the previous commissions, but today I will speak somewhat informally. And first I want to thank City Council for their unanimous passage on Tuesday of 3 bills related to protecting the LGBTQ community in Pittsburgh. I also think it relates to the harm reduction mentioned in the historic nomination for Donny's. And I also want to say that there have been robust efforts to recognize queer history sites across the country through grassroots efforts, as well as through more official channels like the National Trust for Historic Preservation and through federal and state governments, such as listing places on the National Register. In Pittsburgh, we have the Pittsburgh Queer History Project, as was just mentioned, looking at queer nightlife and other aspects. And there have been newspaper articles, a number in recent years, and all this to say that there is interest via grassroots efforts to the more official channels to capture and recognize this history. And by doing so, we learn how things have changed and how they have not changed. And Pittsburgh really should work to formalize and continue to capture some of this history as it is part of who we are and where we've come from. And gay and lesbian bars are the logical historic sites to designate, evolving out of Pittsburgh's tradition of ethnic social clubs. They were both visible and hidden to varying degrees. And much of what happened in the 70s through the 90s in particular could be lost and forgotten as we continue to lose the people and places that made these historic sites. This nomination is complicated given the property owners and the developer who wants to build the 19 market rate units. Given the vacant land owned by the estate and that the bar, Donny's, is located on the far corner, there likely could be some way to build the housing and to use and incorporate some portion of the building. It might even mean just keeping the facade and nothing else. There are many examples of this as it has been done across the country. But regardless of this specific nomination, I really hope that there can be efforts to work with Pittsburgh city government and community groups and others to recognize these critical decades of Pittsburgh's queer history. Those decades are embodied in Donny's Place, which was in business almost 50 years, and there are still a few sites still standing. But we, really must work together soon before all is lost and forgotten. I will end here because I know my 3 minutes are probably close to up. But again, thank you, City Council, for passing the recent.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Martin J. Healey, followed by Charles W. Hantz.
I am the CEO at Persad Center. I have served on many different boards over the past 30 years supporting the LGBTQ plus community. In addition to that, I've worked tirelessly with so many folks that are sitting to my right over the years to build this community into what it is. I think when you break this whole situation down, I can lock it down for me in four specific points. I think the approach to how this property has been taken over by a process that has been detrimental to Donny and the gentleman who owns that property or owned that property, and the fact that he died penniless while this all has been held up in the process with significant dollars is tragic. And I think we have to look at how we approach these types of rules, and I'd urge City Council to reconsider how it allows properties to be held up as far as sale goes and when they're being designated a historic landmark. There's nothing historic about this site. This site is a pretty rough, blighted site. There are the opportunity to place nice housing here right next to a bus line. It's ridiculous that this is even coming to be in question. The third item I'd bring up would be it's not representative of the community. I think when we look around at Donny's place, it represents one piece of the community at best. And it's blighted. I don't think, as a gay man and being supportive of the community for the many years that I have been, I want Donny's place to be what represents our community for the history books. And lastly, how the heck would we pay for this? I mean, this building needs a complete rebuild. I have been very involved in our community for a very long time, and I have not gotten one call, not one discussion about how we would pay for it as a community. And I think the folks who are bringing this up here today are saying, well, we can get this done. I don't see that happening. I don't think anyone to my right sees this happening as well. So it's concerning. So I'd urge you to vote against it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charles W. Hantz, followed by William Hileman.
Good morning. I apologize for my voice. I have had lung surgery and it affected. If there's something I say you don't understand or can't hear, please ask me and I'll repeat. My name is Chuck Hantz. I reside in the Friendship area in Council District 9. Been a resident of the city of Pittsburgh for 40 years. And I've been in the council chambers a number of times over the years. In 1988 and 1990, when we fought for the lesbian-gay ordinance for protection. And I also gave testimony here, or actually was here for a confirmation hearing when Mayor Murphy appointed me to the Human Relations Commission. I made my living as a businessman along with my business partner, Chuck Tierney. We owned and operated three restaurants and bars that supported the gay and lesbian community. I knew Donny Thinnis for 53 years. He was my friend, my business associate. And I saw him over the years putting these parcels of land together piece by piece by piece, sometimes having to go without things that he wanted to other things that he wanted in order to get a property very quickly whenever it hit the market. He started that process even before the busway was in place. And he envisioned this sort of thing that's happening with the condominiums, the housing. It's really sad and awful that, as I said, that he died penniless. It's even worse than that. The last 5 years they were dragged through the courts trying to make this happen. And now this last Hail Mary that this group is performing to try to designate the property as historical is really the worst. There is nothing historical about that property, in that nothing happened in that building that did not also occur in other businesses throughout the city, including my own. I would say directly to Councilwoman Gross, I understand you're supporting the constituents of your district, but I have to remind you, if maybe you did not know, Don Thinnis lived in that district in the building beside the bar for a number of years, on and off, over the last 30 years. So maybe you weren't the councilwoman at the time, but he was a constituent of that district. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is William Hileman, followed by Joseph Jargo.
Good morning. I'm Billy Hileman, and I am, I won't give you my queer resume, but I will let you know that part of it did have a good bit of interaction with Donny Thinnis, who I consider a friend, as well as other people who are speakers today. And I think that I want to make a few quick points. One, that of the 10 criteria, regulatory criteria, this Donny's place reaches 0, none of them. Even the more ambiguous cultural significance, it doesn't reach, because, as other people have said, there are other establishments that are, as I think they are historical, but they're notably similar, and there's nothing outstanding about Donny's place that would set it aside or above the others. We do not have a Stonewall Inn in Pittsburgh. We have no Harvey Milk in our history, and that's okay, because we have Pittsburgh. And the unique thing about Pittsburgh is its community values. And Donny Thinnis has a place in that community that is unique because of who he was and what he did. And his life, like other human beings, starts as a child. You get your self-confidence, you learn about yourself, you become a young adult, you start a career. In his case, he went to Vietnam first. But when you're queer and you go through that process, you also encounter insult, self-doubt, fear, anxiety, sometimes self-hatred. But generally, we get beyond that and we reach adulthood. He did that and made a place for other people to have a safe place on their process too. And in his final years, what this process did was put him back there. One of the last times I saw Donny Thinnis was in a meeting with Mr. Healey and Mr. Hansen, Mr. Jargo, and we were strategizing how to help him. And I saw a man who had anxiety, powerlessness, fear, because the wealth that he built was inaccessible to him by this process. It was stolen from him. If you designate this, you will not be building some sort of museum, cultural museum. You will be building a monument to what you stole from him. That will be part of the history of this process, what this was stolen. And it would be a shame if you did that. Now is the time to finish this and correct it in the appropriate way and end this saga by respecting what he wanted, his wishes, which is the core of queer people's integrity and what is stolen from them in the process of living in a homophobic society.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Thomas Joseph Jargo, followed by Gerald Lee Morasco.
Good day, council members. My name is Thomas Jargo. I'm a resident of the Brighton Heights neighborhood and a member of the Pittsburgh GLBTQ+ community. I'm also associate broker and manager of the Howard Hanna office on Baum Boulevard in Shadyside. I'm an active board member of Rising Tide Partners, City Source Associates, and the Buell Foundation One Northside Initiative. In my career, I've had the opportunity and pleasure to work in many of your communities with your local CDC groups. I'm here today as the executor for the estate of Donald R. Thinnis. Mr. Thinnis, Donny, was a city resident, a landlord, business owner, and for over 40 years of his life worked hard to assemble 34 parcels of real estate in Polish Hill, including a neighborhood gay bar last known as Donny's Place at 1226 Heron Avenue. Donny died on January 20, 2024. On March 13 of 2019, Donny entered into an agreement of sale with Laurel Communities LLC. Laurel Communities had initial approval to build 27 new residential townhomes in Polish Hill. In the 6 years following the March 13, 2019 agreement of sale, litigation and appeals to deny the development have continued until the court sent it back to the Pittsburgh Department of City Planning, where the process began. Subsequent to signing the agreement with Laurel Communities, Donny acted in good faith, did not renew the leases of the tenants in those properties, and did die penniless at his home in 2024. Upon approval from planning to approve construction of 19 residential homes, 2 neighborhood residents filed an application to nominate Donny's as historic. 1226 Heron Avenue for the Pittsburgh GLBTQ+ community. The application was opposed by the estate, and subsequent to 2 hearings before the Pittsburgh Historic Review Commission and 1 hearing before the Planning Commission, the nomination was denied. For over 6 years, this process has denied a citizen his basic property rights and has stalled residential development. I knew Donny as a respected leader in our GLBTQ+ community, and the distorted agenda to memorialize a decaying structure rather than the legacy of a GLBTQ+ leader is sad. The final decision for this rests with you, council members, but please uphold the basic property rights of Donny Thinnes and honor the wishes of his last will and testament. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Gerald Lee Morasco, followed by Jack Billings, who already spoke. So I will go ahead and read the next name, which is Tiffany Turky.
Jerry Morasco. I'm a resident since 1986 of Southside. Thank you, Councilman, for being here. To the matter of the historic importance of Donny's Place, the facts have been well presented to this body by the HRC and the Planning Commission and are irrefutable in establishing that under the criteria described under Title 11 of the Pittsburgh Court of Ordinances, this nomination is absolutely and wholly devoid of merit. And I'm speaking to that as an established preservation of art architect in this city and nationally with a long record of supporting historic preservation in the city. The Planning Commission, after careful consideration and deliberation, communicated to you their unanimous recommendation to deny the designation. The Historic Review Commission, in a somewhat appalling abdication of their chartered responsibility, has taken what I believe to be the unprecedented act of making no recommendation, openly stating for the record, however, that they wished the nominated structure more strongly qualified for designation because they really liked the idea of having a designated structure on the city register that represented the city's gay culture. Wish is not on the list of criteria, and as had already been testified to, in no way, shape, or form was Donny's Place Pittsburgh's Stonewall Inn. The matter should already be well decided and the vote of this body unanimous, yet here we are, and the question on the table before council is, at essence, should the city encourage this particularly pernicious misappropriation of this portion of the code to deprive a property owner of his last will and testament, his heirs of their inheritance, and a proposed property owner a use of right in concert with existing and adopted planning? Our planning process in Pittsburgh is well established. The weaponization of Title 11 to nominate a meritless structure diminishes the value of the ordinance in total and the value of our other historic structures. I would encourage City Council not to approve this meritless nomination and to preserve the integrity of our ordinance and our city historic structures. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tiffany Turky, followed by Charles Turkeley. I hope I didn't mispronounce that.
You did great.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you. Esteemed community members, my name is Tiffany Turky. I basically met Donny, whenever he was passing, I knew how bad he was suffering, and I want to say this needs to come to an end. Since 2019, the property's future has been in limbo. After years of delays, it's time to move forward. The structure has been thoroughly evaluated to safety and engineering professionals that this is not repairable. The damage, it's unsafe, entirely unsalvageable. Now that plans have been secured, not just remedy the space, but to transform it. The approval housing development will improve the area's visual integrity while offering new accommodations, positions near public transit, especially now that Heron Avenue Bridge has closed since May 2025. This project is critical to restoring the area, local community, easing strain on surrounding neighborhoods. We also recognize and deeply respect the significance of Donny's legacy. This contribution to AIDS research and the exclusive community he helped build are worth honoring that name, Donny's Place, not as a relic, but as a symbol of values carried into the future. However, sentiment must not stall progress. Meaningful preservation efforts were absent when they could have been made a difference before 2019. We now respectfully request formal redesignation and approval of proceeds for redevelopment. We stand here not against history, but in service of public safety, community access, and more exclusive future. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Charles Turkeley III, followed by Amy Zace.
Thank you, Council. My name is Charles Turkeley. I grew up in Polish Hill for a short time, across the street from Donny's Place at 1210 Heron Avenue. Met him years ago. He pretty much took my father in whenever my grandfather had passed, so I've known him my entire life. It's just, we're coming to you not to disregard history, but to ensure that progress is not held hostage by nostalgia. The property was once rich with potential, stood for years untouched, unprotected, and unclaimed by those who now voice opposition. At its peak, when restoration may have been possible, those voices were absent. Now, as the site stands damaged and dangerous, their newfound concerns threaten, stall necessary actions. Respectfully, we must acknowledge that advocacy delayed is advocacy diminished. We cannot allow the momentum of responsible stewardship to be diverted by last-minute sentiment. The time for preservation has passed. What remains is the duty to protect the public, honor lawful procedure, and ensure space for new possibilities. Let us move forward with conviction and bring the matter to its rightful close, and just respect the wishes of the dead and a property owner and a member of the community who's worked so hard for what we're trying to do now. Thank you.
Get my mic on, sorry. Thank you. Our next speaker is Amy Zace, followed by Jeffrey Wheeler.
Hi, good morning, Council. My name's Amy Zace. I live in the Beachview neighborhood, and I'm here today to deliver a statement on behalf of Pro Housing Pittsburgh. We are a grassroots organization of renters and homeowners who advocate for abundant and affordable housing across our region. The benefits of building housing near transit are known, and they are proven. We also know that Donald Dinius wanted his legacy to be giving more families a new home in Polish Hill, because like others have said, it was specified so in his will. Knowing that we're in a severe housing crisis, it's a beautiful gift to the community that Donny wanted his legacy to be giving new homes to future Pittsburgh neighbors. The nomination of Donny's Place property does not honor his wishes or his legacy. It rather tramples on it. Make no mistake, this nomination is wholly intended to prevent the construction of new homes on the site. This parcel is steps away from the East Busway, notably one of the best pieces of transit infrastructure in our city, and one that is ranked bronze by BRT standards. That is to say, it is a uniquely recognized asset that should be leveraged to its fullest. This nomination would directly undermine the city's objective for transit-oriented development. Declaring Donny as a historic landmark against the wishes of Donny, his family, his friends, and the queer community that gathered at Donny's place would set a dangerous precedent. It would create an incentive to file undeserved historic nominations to delay and prevent housing. Let me remind everyone, Donny agreed to sell this site in March 2019. The original plan was for 27 homes. Now, over 6 years later, ground has still not broken, and the plan has been downsized to 19 homes. Housing delayed is housing denied. Every home we prevent from being built is one more family, one more neighbor displaced from Pittsburgh. This is why, for all these reasons, we urge council to vote against the historic nomination of Donny's place. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jeffrey Wheeler, followed by Edward Burns.
I'd like to first say hello to the city council members. I'm here without a menu like everyone else has. I did not write a document to talk from. It's coming from the heart.
May I ask you one thing before you start?
Sure.
It's part of our requirement that you state your name and neighborhood for the
I
record.
am. I'm very sorry.
The clerk just reminded me that you
I'm
didn't
very
speak.
sorry.
And so she'll start your clock.
Yes. My name is Jeffrey Wheeler. I live in Monroeville, PA. I also resided at one point in Fox Chapel. As I had stated, everything I'm saying is coming from the heart. Donny and I were really good friends for a long time. I was the owner of P-Town Bar from 2007 to 2023. And anytime that I needed anything, whether or not it was supplies or whether or not it was suggestions, Donny was there to help. Now, I do oppose this transaction that is taking place. The building that we are talking about, it's not worth it. This building is in such deplorable condition, and I don't see how you could take this building and save it. It's not worth it. But Donny was a good person, and when he died, I was appalled by him dying penniless. For a man to be in business for as long as he was. And he helped so many people out. You wouldn't believe how many people he helped. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Edward Burns, followed by Dan Jablonski. We control the timer, so when you say your name and neighborhood for the record, then the clerk sets your minutes. So you have to identify yourself, and then you get your 3 minutes.
So I'm not going to get extra time. My name is Edward Burns. I've been a resident of Pittsburgh since 1981. most of that in Squirrel Hill. In the last couple of years, I now reside in Shadyside. Over those 40 some odd years I've been in Pittsburgh, I've been a member of the community, not a visible, outgoing, regular bar-going person, but I've been to many events that they've been held. They've even had a couple of fundraising events at my house that Donny even attended. I've had those small events that helped the community in various ways. And there's been many people that have helped the community in various ways over the years. When I look at this petition, I see that it focuses on a building. It's not the building that has to be memorialized. We have already heard that the building is derelict, doesn't really stand up, needs tremendous amount of developmental money. We've also heard that Donny is a good person. He's more than that. He was one of many good people in Pittsburgh, and we need to memorialize him in some way, in some fashion. An earlier speaker today mentioned that, well, we don't know what we can do with the building. Maybe we'll tear down most of it, maybe keep the facade, maybe this, maybe something, maybe a plaque on the wall, which they didn't mention. But we need to memorialize within the community what our memories are. What were the good things? What were the bad things? And it's those things I want to say, how do we do that? Is it the building that's falling down that needs to be developed? No, I think it's something more. So give some thought to how we provide a memory to all the good people who have helped the community over the years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Dan Gablonsky, followed by Scott Knoxon.
Hey there. My name is Dan Jablonski. I am the Digital Organizing Director at Pittsburghers for Public Transit. We're a union of transit riders and transit workers. We organize for more accessible, affordable transportation in Allegheny County and across our state. I'm speaking today to encourage City Council to approve the historic nomination of the Donny site and to legislate for more dense, more affordable housing near our city's best transit assets, because both things are possible, even if the current developers, not Donny, the current developers say that it's not. I'm also a resident of Polish Hill. I live in my partner's home, which is one of the permanently affordable homes that are developed on Brereton Street by the City of Bridges Land Trust. I get to organize in Polish Hill for more affordable housing like this every day. And every day that I wake up, I'm reminded that this is a permanently affordable home. This is not subject to market pressures. This seemed impossible until people made it possible. Historic nomination and equitable transit-oriented development are not at odds. We don't have to look far to see that. Just looking to Homewood, next to Homewood Station, a 4-story, 55-unit senior affordable development was built. It preserves portions of a historic structure. Both Homewood and Heron Station are, which is next to Donny's site, are classified in PRT's, Pittsburgh Regional Transit's, transit-oriented development guidelines as under the transit neighborhoods typology. That means that they have similar mixed-use, residential and commercial, mid to high-density development that's already in the neighborhood. And PRT says that in these kinds of neighborhoods, we should uplift density, affordable, and community-serving, community-respecting uses. And I think when we compare these two developments, what's been built in Homewood that preserves a historic structure, builds 55 dense units for senior populations, and what's being proposed by developers of Donny's site, which is 19 single-family townhomes with garages, driveways. It's easy to, and right next to the East Busway, which is our transit agency's most high-performing transit asset. And just to note that these plans they don't have zoning approval for them. It's easy to see that property developers are proposing something that has significantly less value to the community and to our transit agency than others have built other places in our city. So again, everything seems impossible until it's impossible. I have the honor of seeing that every day with the transit riders that I organize with, who make life possible against the
Thank you. As a reminder to any speaker who didn't get to finish their thoughts, that you can always email the city clerk their full comments, and we'll make sure they get into to council members. Our next speaker is Scott Knoxon, followed by Samantha Hanoxley.
Hello, my name is Scott Knoxon. I own a bar on 931 Liberty Avenue. I live in McKees Rocks. About this whole thing with Donny and the bar here. The building that the bar was in, is unremarkable. There's nothing architecturally I have time to talking. There's nothing there that would make it to be something that needs to be kept. I was the last person in there running a business for the last 4 years, and I put blue tarp and I put tar on the roof, and I had people trying to come and stop the rain from coming in, but Mother Nature has fully invaded that building right now, and it cannot be saved. You would have to take it down and rebuild it. A couple of months ago, there was a person who broke in and started flipping all the circuits on and the switches on. He saw a flame, and he decided he would sit down in the DJ booth on the second floor, which I could never reach because I'm way too heavy, and the boards are broken to get to it. But he sat in there waiting for the smoke to take him out, and then he would be incinerated. They caught him. Somebody was coming across the bridge and saw the smoke. They caught him. They got him, and they asked him, "What's going on?" He says, "I just don't want to be here." But I've known that guy for years too. The problem with the building now is you can see the sky through the first floor. You can see the sky through the first floor. There are holes in that second floor that I have fallen through to my waist. You saw it. It was not fun. It was a lot of a scary place to be. I don't know what else I can say. The items that were in that bar have been sifted by Chuck Turkeley, and I sifted what was left in there, and I've had 2 carloads to go to the Heinz History Center, and I have probably another 2 carloads, and they've accepted everything I've brought over to them. It's better to have it out of that building than in, because if it was in there, it'd probably be covered up by now with whatever's going on by the building not being in condition. I got, let's see if I got anything else here. I think that's really about it. That is it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Our next and last registered speaker is Samantha Hanoxley.
Hi, my name is Samantha Hanoxley, and I live in Lawrenceville. And I am queer. And I find the proposed designation of Donny's Place as a historic building to be breathtakingly cynical. These are people who are saying that they speak for me, they're saying that they speak for my community, and they don't. As we've heard from other public commenters, the interest is not in preserving queer history, the interest is in blocking housing. And right in my neighborhood in Lawrenceville, I've seen what happens when you don't build housing. Because when you don't build housing, the demand for that housing doesn't go away. The price of housing just goes up and up and up. Right, and again, as a queer person, a lot of people in our community are economically disadvantaged, which is a fancy way of saying poor. A lot of people are coming from, I mean, even today, are coming from difficult family situations. We don't need a half-burned building and a plaque and a pat on the back. We need a place to live. So I urge City Council to reject this disingenuous proposal of historic designation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate that. I think at the top, we have no more registered speakers, although we failed to invite Lizzie Anderson as one of the guests to the table, Madam Clerk. So like our city planner, I think she's afforded at least something like 7 minutes. Oh, she's on Zoom? Can you have her entered as a panelist?
I'm here.
There she is. Excuse me. I can't see the other Zoom scene, so I apologize. I'm going to turn to the other Zoom scene so I can see it. So we I think, should have had Ms. Anderson's testimony at the top of the meeting, but we are able to do that now. Thank you.
Yeah, and I had slides, but they're just images that people have seen before. So if you're just looking at me, then we'll just do that and you don't have to worry about it. So as a nominator of Donny's Place for historic designation, I can say we really still do believe in the building and all of the stories and relationships, love, loss, safety, and care that happen there are being preserved. And unlike other hearings we've presented at thus far, we are not here pushing for this nomination to succeed today. We didn't ask people to come and support, but we appreciate anyone who has come to do so. We know the odds and we are really tired, honestly. Instead, we're taking this opportunity to share about the process and the need for honoring any queer and trans history in the city. So one, the most important thing we've learned about this experience is twofold. We need to visibly honor queer and trans history in order to grow our queer and trans futures. And to do that, we need to challenge the rapid gentrification and unfettered development that exists in this city and is only increasing, insatiably tearing down history left and right. There is a place, Donny's or not, that will have to be the first queer and trans related landmark. It should not have to be the best first or the perfect first just because it's related to gayness, and there should be many. You do not have to know about it for it to matter. Donny's Place wasn't perfect, and if we only honored perfect places and people, we'd honor nowhere and no one. Today, for both reasons we cannot fathom and ones that we can, but if we only did what other people agree to, we'd never do anything and people would disagree with that choice as well. Instead, we do and honor the good enough, the partial safe havens, the rough histories, the bumpy futures filled with possibilities. The thing is, Donny's is down the street from our houses, and it being in our neighborhood means something to us. Additionally, Donny's Place is about to be torn down. Now would have been the only time to save it. Some landmarks make it past the contestation to when people don't care much or have come around to new progressive understandings of the past, but we didn't have that luxury. The time was just now. If you don't live here and you don't care about queer history, the burden of this memorial existing is nothing compared to the burden of it no longer existing for those who do care. And we are the queer and trans neighbors who care. In terms of development, the building of Donny's Place is one small part of a large plot of land. I cannot say that enough. We've said it a million times. We know that for certain our desires to have the building preserved left room for other plans and development. We especially wanted ones that actually meet the needs of the neighborhood and increase access to homes for people who are dying in the streets as we speak, and a disproportionate number of them are queer and trans. Trans people especially are being targeted both in new and in the same terrifying ways in this year of 2025. Safe and honoring histories and presents and futures are our goals, and we settle for no less. There are many ways to do this, and we will keep doing this in many ways. We are heartened by the legislation the city passed yesterday related to these protections, and thank you to all who have worked on these efforts. 2, the work of the city is to make decisions of preservation on the qualities listed in the application, not on owner or soon-to-be owner opposition, nor building shape, including fire damage that occurred after a nomination was made. We did not hear any discussion about city or neighborhood plans from the planning commissioners. We would have liked to hear more about the way preservation clearly does fall into what the city and neighborhoods have said that they want, since we actually read all of them, and we know that that's true. And we know that they mention the need for preservation of history and of current structures, and they emphasize the need for actually affordable housing by transit for people who rely on transit. Those people are poor and working class, and they do not own cars. They are not people who will live in single-family million-dollar townhouses, despite what Pro-Housing Pittsburgh and everyone else might say. And again, disproportionately, they are queer and trans. They are also women and people of color and disabled and immigrant and others of the dispossessed. 3, whether or not you agree with this nomination, everyone should be concerned that corporations can sue citizens for participating in sanctioned city processes while expressing their desires for their neighborhood through their right to free speech. That's what this is. This should concern everyone in the city, and this should concern the city of Pittsburgh, whose interests we hope include at least preserving some history while it still exists. We also hope the city does not want the ruling and owning classes to be the only determiners of what is valuable to honor and what is not, which is what is happening here. In closing, thank you to Deb Gross and her team for their support endlessly. Thank you to Commissioner Lucia Aguirre for seeing and fulfilling your role and for being unwilling to participate in the erasure. And thank you to all the queer and trans people of the city and their allies, our beloved neighbors, for all the ways you show up, including having supported this nomination.
Thank you. Is that all that you have?
That's all that I have.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Deb.
Now that we've exhausted our registered speakers, anyone in the audience wishing to speak may have 1 minute. Please approach the podium and identify yourself and your neighborhood for the record.
So good afternoon. My name is John Cayman, K-A-M-I-N. My address is 437 Grant Street. I am counsel for both the estate in this matter and the developer Laurel Communities. First of all, I'm not subject to the 1 minute time limit that you've talked about, because under your rule, particularly 1101-032B, I am counsel for the estate and provided with an opportunity to make a counter presentation to that of the nominator. I also am entitled under the rules to ask the nominator questions and to provide reasonable cross-examination of the nominator.
Duly noted?
Excuse me?
Duly noted.
Thank you. So first, for the record, I'd like to go ahead and present 2 things that I'd ask that the clerk make part of the record. The first is a series of photos that are taken of Donny's place. The second is a structural report that was prepared by LLG Engineering Consulting that goes ahead and describes the conditions of the property. If you take a look at the structural report that we provided to you, you will see that the property is in deplorable condition. It was in deplorable condition prior to the fire, and it is in deplorable, even worse condition after the fire. In addition to the condition items that are noted, there are structural issues that exist that make the property unable to be saved, including cracking, shifting of settlement, rotted studs, rotted floor, rotted ceiling joists, rotted sills, rotted rim boards, rotted foundation, etc. The report also details various aspects of the property post-fire that make it impossible to be saved. So let's just start from an objective standpoint, looking at the condition of the property. There is nothing here that meets the criteria that allows it or requires it to be preserved under your ordinance. What we have seen and what we have endured over the past several years, and in particular since this property was wrongfully nominated for a vain purpose, has been a perversion of city ordinances and the senses of justice and fairness. We would ask that City Council put an end to this nonsense and stop the process and the abusive process that has gone ahead and tortured the landowner during his lifetime and continues to torture his heirs after his death. I would note that the reason why the number of units was reduced from 27 to 19 was to create an as-of-right development so that this could move forward. That is a net loss of 8 units, but that net loss of 8 units was the direct result of the endless challenges and fights that our client and the estate and Donny during his lifetime had to endure. In addition, I would note that Ms. Anderson went ahead and referenced the fact that she was sued. She is correct. She is sued, and the estate and the developer filed a lawsuit against her and the other nominator because they are not using this process to go ahead and to preserve something that is to be preserved. They're using this process as an abusive process to go ahead and to continue to torture Mr. Thines as they did during his lifetime. If you look objectively at the criteria, which is what is actually before you and is what is actually required to be considered, it does not meet any of those items. And I would ask council to go ahead and to turn down this nomination. Now, I did have a couple questions for Ms. Anderson that I'd like to ask her with regard to the statements that she made this morning.
As the chair, I've never had to do this before. Madam Clerk, have you ever had to do this in a public hearing?
No. This has never come up with an attorney wanting to cross-examine one of the presenters. No, this has never happened.
I have to admit, I'm not a judge. I don't know exactly how cross-examination works. Would you mind if we called in someone from the solicitor's office?
I'm happy
We have a parliamentarian. You're not the parliamentarian. But
no, but I'm happy to read you your rules so you can hear
I
it.
read the rules, actually, because I know you did this at the last hearings. I did read the rules, but I have not, it doesn't describe the chair's duties. And so we have a solicitor's office for this reason. So if you wouldn't mind just waiting. The solicitors are, stand by any time we're in session. So we'll just hold tight. They're on their way. We'll just wait another minute. They should be, they're in the building.
Let's see what the holdup is.
We're going to give just a recess, even if it's just 30 seconds until we get someone from the solicitor's office. This is just turns off the cameras so there's not a bunch of dead television time. So this meeting is in recess. We're back online, but are we back? We may or may not be broadcasting, but it doesn't look like we're on Zoom. So I'll say, I'm assuming that the cameras are rolling. I'm calling this public hearing back in session. And it appears that we did lose our guest. And so I will just have Mr. Cayman proceed where he left off. Again, also as a guest, as he is representing the property owner. Please continue.
So I would just note for the record that it does appear that the applicant did sign off on Zoom when I came up to speak, so she's not available for cross-examination. The topics which I wanted to go in and to discuss with her about are an important part of the historic nomination process, and specifically under 110104 Section C requires that any structure that purportedly meets the 10 criteria that are set forth in the prior section also have, and I quote, sufficient integrity of location, design, materials, and workmanship to make it worthy of preservation or restoration. And I think that piece has been lost in much of the discussion and certainly was lost in the comments from the applicant, that this property, as testified to by numerous people, including Mr. Morasco, who was very humble in saying that he was famous in Pittsburgh, but he is nationally and internationally renowned as a preservation expert, to go ahead and to again affirm that it meets none of those criteria and therefore is not eligible or appropriate to go ahead and declare preserved under the ordinance. In closing, I would ask, and I think our friends here today ask as well, that council move this forward to a vote, to a timely vote, and that it vote negatively on the designation so that this process can finally move forward after being stalled for more than 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm actually going to confirm with our cable vision that we are actually recording, even though Zoom is down. It is on the monitors? Okay, so...
It's just Zoom.
Okay. So we have kind of double recording. So it is broadcasting on the monitors in the rest of the city council hall. So we're assuming it's also broadcasting live, but it is not on Zoom.
Okay.
Just wanted to be sure that your testimony was recorded.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so it will be retained in the permanent record. Thank you. I appreciate that. What we haven't done is ask if there's anyone else in the audience who was not registered but who wishes to speak, who could have 1 minute. Anyone? You're supposed to ask a couple times, just to be sure. Seeing no other speakers, what we usually do at this part of a hearing is see if any council members wish to speak. Councilman Charland? Oh, I'm sorry. That's.
Do you want to, this?
We were
Jack
just
could be the
ending the 1 minute. Are you registered? I'm sorry.
That's Jack Miller.
Jack Miller from Law.
Oh, thank you. I think we're okay. Appreciate it. Councilman Charland.
Okay. So yes, thank you everyone that came down today. Those that spoke online. This is obviously something I'm pretty passionate about as someone who is constantly advocating for additional housing and what our housing solutions can be here in the city. Also, I very much want to continue the tradition of Reverend Burgess, Councilman Reverend Burgess, who, had the general view that we should never be nominating something for historic review or for historic nomination that the owner of that project does not support if we are, as the city, not willing to pay for what will be required to keep that building historic. So for me, this is kind of a no-brainer. I think there's a few things that come in front of us in council where I have as much moral clarity as this nomination here, which I believe both on this individual project, but as the process that this project took, I see this as a weaponization, as Mr. Morasco said, of the Historic Review Commission, and a way that folks that want to kill housing can use this ability to just say something's historic and find ways to prolong the process. And I believe, as another speaker said, housing delayed is housing denied. So we're continuing to fight this out in court, where people could be living along the bus line in a high resourced area of the city, and instead of that, we've got what is an abandoned, as Mr. Cayman pointed out, not in phenomenal condition by any means, location, and for what? So this legislation comes to us and it says the owner of the property does not support the nomination and there's no cost to the city. And fiscally, that is correct. There is no cost to the city for this historic nomination, but there's a huge cost to the city here. What we're missing out on supplying housing to our neighbors. We're missing out on what could be additional revenue for the city. There's a huge cost associated to this. So for me, this is something that very, very clear and very easy to know where to support there. So all that said, again, I want to thank everyone who came out here to speak today, and people that have spoke to me beforehand on this, and look forward to getting this on the agenda and off the agenda as soon as possible. Thank you.
I appreciate it. I'll just take some time to thank everyone for all of your time and effort to come down and share your stories. It's really good to get them into the record. I really deeply appreciate hearing these stories and everyone's, I think, work already done in just saving and storing these memories. I really appreciate that so many of the records have already gone to the History Center. And I think that's a wonderful model that we should continue and find more people's stories and records to be shared and kept. You've heard me say it in many other places and many other times. I really do believe in historic preservation, and I think having some place, as we've heard, we have the History Center, but a time where people are afraid of being erased and their stories of being erased. Maybe we should work a little harder to figure out how we don't let that happen. So I do think it's really important that we continue to hear each other. And it is extra meaningful when people are sharing their personal stories. And sometimes people are just not on the same side of an issue. Good people disagree. So I won't speak more to the bill at this time. It will be on the agenda. We're planning on having it on the agenda next week. Okay, so I appreciate, again, everybody's sincere work on both sides of this issue. Thank you. I'll call this meeting adjourned.